Welcome to the Manifestor Only podcast. Today, I have Kat with me, a 3-5 emotional manifester. Welcome, Kat. I'm so glad to have you.
Oh, hi. Happy to be here.
I would love it if you could kick this off with just introducing yourself in whatever way feels the most natural to you.
All right. Well, let's see what comes out of my mouth here. What is up? My name is Fitzgerald. I am a manifestor. I'm a mother of three, apparently now. I'm a spiritual entrepreneur. I do astrology, human design. I also am a VA and I support CEOs. I support spiritual entrepreneurs and I support artists. And I am a performer. That's what I got. Hello.
Yeah, it's undefined G people and I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to say.
Yeah, like who am I today? What feels relevant?
Exactly. Who am I today? So I would love to start by talking about your profile because I adore the 3-5s in my life. And I think the whole concept of fucking up to find out is just beautiful, but I would love to hear it from your experience of like this trial and error heretic kind of person. What is it like for you to be a 3-5?
I literally love being a 3-5. I don't think I would like to be any other profile. Like, I vibe with this. Sometimes, I don't know. My personal belief is that when we're, floating up in neutrino land and we're not a person yet, we get the opportunity to choose parts of our life experience. And I believe, some of those things I'm like, really? We fucking chose that? Interesting choice. But the 3-5 part of me, I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I love that. I'm glad that's what I am. It's really funny to watch, especially my partner's a 6 line. So to watch the difference between those two things has really taught me a lot. And to watch her journey with me going on 3rd line adventures, and that kind of rubbing up against the 6th line for her. Oh, it's funny because there's nothing I can do. I'm just like, oh, I'm going to try this out. And she goes, oh, do you want to look it up first? No, I don't. I really don't. I don't care. Actually, if I do look it up, I'm not going to want to do it anymore. It loses its luster for me. I don't want to do it. And it's funny because it's like most things in life, I'm like, I could probably do that. Even if I have zero knowledge in it, I'm like, nah, I could do it. I could do it. Let me just try it out. And that's the thing, through that process, I do learn how to fucking do it. The degree of mess varies, but it's fun. It's fun to be a 3rd line. And then the 5, it's like, that one has a little more of a rub for me sometimes because the piece of it where it's like nobody really ever knows you fully, sometimes that has a rub. Sometimes it doesn't at all. And I'm like, hell yeah, none of you motherfuckers know me. And I can have some distance from difficult things in my life and difficult interactions. But then there's like the flip side where it's like, oh God, I feel really alone in this moment. But I don't know, that's beautiful too, because it's like that is also a part of the human condition. So many people, even if they're not 5th lines, have that feeling of like, I feel alone in this moment. And it's almost like a spotlight on that feeling that really is a teacher to me of like, you are alone in your vessel, in your spirit body. Nobody's ever going to be in there with you. Can you make peace with the you that only you see?
Mm.
That's how I feel about it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think a lot of 3rd lines need to hear that. I mean, I'm married to a 1-3, and so I'm a 6-2, which, we met when I was in my first life phase. So we played the 3rd line buddies together for a while. And now I'm so deeply in my roof process that I'm just so grateful that I found human design because it explained, well, of course, my journey, but also just having that respect for him and the way that he does. I'm like, do you want to, he's a 1-3. So sometimes I'm like, do you want to like read about that before you go do it? He says, no, I don't need to do that. It's like very specific what times he's going to investigate the shit he's going to try out. And just being able to hands off, it's his journey. He's got to figure that out. And I think it's so nice when he then has that respect for me to be able to just like, okay, you can just fuck that up and I'm going to still be here. I'll still love you. And I'm not going to judge you. I'm just going to be here for your ride. observing from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, I think, a lot of, the narrative around being that person who is here to trial and error, the person who's here to be that martyr. I think we can have a preconceived notion of what that means when we then find human design. And it can perhaps be a grieving process of like thinking that you're not supposed to be that, or perhaps you weren't allowed to be that when you were a child. Especially as a parent, I don't know, I'm not a parent, but what I see a lot of parents struggle with is allowing their kids to just, watch them fuck up and not fix it for them before they do. And so I think, your way of just being like, yes, that is part of my design. I'm just like, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah. I'm having two thoughts. I'm going to come back to the parent piece of it in a second. But I've got a good friend, Will, who's a 1-3. And, as we've become better and better friends, it's very funny to me the difference between having the third line in the personality and having it in the body. Because he's so much more, even though I have a shit ton of first lines, as much as I have fifth lines and third lines, it doesn't matter because it's not one of my primaries. He's like, oh yeah, I did all this research about this. And I'm like, no. And the way that I lead with my, I'm just going to like stumble my way through life. And, it's just funny. It's funny to watch. And then he'll be like, yeah, here's these things that happened to me on my journey. And I'm like, oh, yeah, because it's in your body and you're just getting hit in your body and you're not really like, I don't know. Sometimes, and this is like very mental, right? Sometimes I feel like I'm the driver of my third line bus, I'm like really steering my chaos, even though I'm not. It's just, yeah, it's fun to watch those differences. What was I going to come back to? Oh, the parenting, right. Okay, so Maggie is a 6-2, so she's in her third line phase. And Pepper is a 3-5. I'm so excited. I'm like, 3-5, buddy. I can't wait. I can't wait. So far, she has exhibited herself to be, she's the most like hands to mouth child so far. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, you're crawling around and you have a fucking popcorn kernel. Are you going to die today? Like, what are we doing? I'm going to have to baby proof every corner in the home. Anyway, Maggie, as a 6-2, she's in her third line phase. She injures herself from morning until night. And and she has defined spleen and mine's fully open. So I feel like I am constantly checking myself on like, do I need to be afraid for her really in this moment? Because she's the child that I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She broke her arm when she was 3, I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? But finding that line of letting her be in that third line phase and letting her judge her own safety because she has that consistent intuition feeding to her, and then also being a parent and being like, wait, now is the correct moment for me to be like, hey, you're going to die. Don't do that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You've spoken a little bit about having that completely open spleen, I believe mostly on your closed friends list.
Mm-hmm.
But would you be willing to talk a little bit about what that feels like when it gets hooked up by the transits?
Ah, yes, I will. I think that ends up on my close friends list so much because when I share about it, I'm really in like the sad emotional space about it and I'm crying all over the place. And I just like don't. I got to a place where I just didn't want to window into that. I think I was really feeling sensitive in a fifth line way. I wonder if that'll ever come out again. We'll see. Anyway, it feels like shit when I have a defined spleen. Like fully, there is no way for me to get around that. Like it feels like shit. And I have hope that as I continue deconditioning, that'll get better. But that's the one where I feel like I still am really struggling with releasing things that are not mine. I still am really holding and holding, holding and holding. And then I get hooked up to a transit and then, the washing machine turns on, as Ross says, and then I start to purge it. And it is such a fucking event. And we've had transits lately where it's like I've had to find spleen for months on end.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, am I ever gonna feel healthy again? And that's the game with an open spleen or an undefined spleen. It's like, oh, always searching for help, always looking for that perfect whatever. It's a journey, but it is a really excellent teacher. And I feel like each time it happens, I'm really sinking into more acceptance of kind of my role as an open spleen person and having kind of micro level ups in terms of being able to identify, okay, am I sick right now? Or is my partner sick and I'm carrying it? Or is somebody in this theater room sick and I am carrying it? That is starting to become clearer and clearer to me. But because I'm having the symptoms, immediately my anxiety mind is like, we're dying. It's cancer. Google it. You know?
Yes. I know very much so. I have an undefined spleen with only a hanging 28 or a dormant 28. So and that 4816 that's been hooked up for ever through transits, it's just been like you said, that whole washing machine process of just like purging out things. And I've not been feeling good since it turned on. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't follow the transits like a lot of people do, but when I feel like something's off, I'll be like, okay, what's going on? Let's look at it. And when I saw that thing was on and I looked at the placements, and I don't understand always like how long is this going to be on but I can see from the placements that it's like, okay, it's going to be on for a while. It's not just the moon, and it was
right.
I want it gone. Thank you very much. Hello.
Yeah. Like free me.
Yes. Free me. That would be very nice. Yeah. And I think this is a nice segue into the whole mental health part of what I would like to talk to you about. Because I feel like, we could always look at human design and be like, oh, well, it could be this or it could be that. But I feel like you're very open and honest about this whole mental health journey on your Instagram page. And do you feel like there's been a difference, like life before and after human design, when it comes to understanding the journey of mental health?
That's a tough question, mostly because, okay, so once August passes, I will be 9 years in to human design. And I feel kind of when I started my journey with it was also when I started my journey with like, oh, wait a minute, I actually have some capital T trauma. Oh, wait a minute, maybe I have ADHD. And a few more years down the line, it was like, oh, maybe I'm like autistic actually also. And then that kind of all started unfolding for me. So in terms of comparing the before and after, before was like heavy, heavy dissociation. I hadn't had my big burnout all the way up through senior year of college. My coping mechanism was to be very good academically, to be, very impressive as a performer, to do these things that made people love me, to be so positive and pleasant and bubbly that nobody could ever have a problem, and it worked 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 until, one of my primary things was like, if I do these things, my parents will love me, not consciously, but that was a part of what was driving my bus there. And when I got to the end of college, it was no longer relevant. It was like, oh, actually, I'm an adult now and nobody is looking at my grades. And, like nobody's coming to my performances in my family. It all of a sudden doesn't matter. I walked into my senior college jury. I could not sight read the music. Now, this might not mean anything to you, but I have always been a good sight reader. This is not hard for me. And I walked in there and it was like a flip had switched and I had no idea what I was looking at. I was like, what is it? And that was it. That was the start of my burnout. That was where I started to go downhill. I didn't recognize it for what it was. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing all the way until I had this job that was customer service. And I had gotten quick promoted through the ranks, as sometimes happens to fifth line, because they're like, wow, save our ship. And I kept getting promoted and kept taking the duties of each level with me with very, very minimal like increases in pay, if any. And I got to the top and I was like, holy shit, I don't got it in me anymore. I burned every bridge at that company. I dipped out. And then I was like, let me try being an entrepreneur because I still wasn't getting it. I still wasn't like, I need to take a break for a minute. I need to reassess the way I'm going through life. No. Maybe I might be in burnout. Not a clue. Continuing onward, and, it just was like, you're on your little cart and pieces of the cart are falling off and you're like, oh, well, we can do it with three wheels. It's still going. We're still moving. Oh, one of the handles came off. Well, let's do it with the other handle. It's like things are falling off piece by piece. And for me, as a person who is stubborn and does not come by lessons easily, it took all the way until I had like the piece of wood I was sitting on to be like, oh, this is a problem. Yeah, this is a problem. And I was sleeping all day. I was sleeping upwards of 12, 13, 14 hours a day, like totally fatigued. My body hurt. It still hurts, but not to the degree it did. And just like, I got to that place where there was nothing I could do but own it, recognize it, and say, okay, I really fucked this up. I really did not listen. So there wasn't really a before where I was aware of my mental health. I had to go through that process of like, I did EMDR, I did somatic experiencing. I found a projector therapist who was like super into bringing human design and astrology into my sessions. And I think, the more I used human design as a tool, and I've got a defined head and a defined asana. So it's like, I can be really heady about it, which I appreciate. I'm glad I have that definition. I like it. But the more I brought that tool into my life, the more it was like, okay, there's like 1,000 permission slips in here for me to love things that I have hated. Mm. Or even if it's not something I've hated, now I can understand why I do it. If there are things that I was doing that I was like, what the fuck? Like, why am I doing this? Like undefined G things. That was the thing that brought me into human design. Someone was talking to me about the undefined G and I went, oh my God. Oh, all this time I've been like, why can't I pick a job? Why can't I pick a fucking fashion aesthetic? Why can't I pick a hair length, a hair color, a friend group, And all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay. This is me being seen by this chart in a way that I didn't feel seen by astrology. Astrology is so wonderful and does so many things for me, but that specific piece, I was like, oh, now I'm going to learn this whole system, And, yeah, I just think it's such a beautiful way to be able to understand the self, to be able to understand other people and why there might be friction in certain relationships, to understand why parent-child relationships are the way they are. I can't tell you how much peace I felt when I realized I am high sound and my stepdad is low sound. Mm. Oh my God. The immediate peace. The dinner table was a hellscape. That man can't tolerate any noise, no chewing noise, no talking, no nothing. He can't even take the stimulation of eye contact. And he, me as the manifestor, him as the generator, it was very much a sit down, be quiet, don't talk, don't do this. And like the understanding of that, I was like, oh my God. Oh, if you only knew that about yourself, bro. Yeah, I just love it. I don't even know if I answered your question.
Doesn't matter. It's exactly what needed to be said. I hear you so deeply on understanding the people around you through the system and that bringing peace and just the relaxation in the differentiation, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, when I've been listening to your story, I'm just looking at your chart and I'm like, completely open fucking sacral. And that is so interesting to me because I have such a highly defined sacral. I have like 5 gates activated, and I think it's like 6 or 7 activations within those 5 gates. And how has that, I guess you kind of explained how it's kind of been a part of your journey. But deconditioning from that, deconditioning from the need to always be active, has that been hard? And what do you feel like for someone who's listening who has a completely open sacral, like what is the thing that got you to where you are now with that?
Mm. Mm. I mean, a big piece of it is just time.
Mm.
Because for me, working, and in particular, working so much, was a piece of my identity. I had made it a part of self and a thing that I kind of paraded around to be like, look how impressive I am. Look how good at this I am. Look how much I can do. And it took a very long time for me to let that go. It really had to happen in layers. And each time that I thought I'd released a big piece of it, you know, it would just show up in a different way. And I'd be like, oh, God damn it, there you are. you know? Um, and that tagline of not knowing when enough is enough, I have learned that that doesn't only apply to doing. It also applies to not doing. I learned that I also did not know when enough was enough rest. When I was hemorrhaging and resting as like almost a default state of being, when my body was going, no, but what if we could do this? What if we did this? Let's check this out. Let's do this. And I just kept saying, no, 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 no. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. I don't want to. I'm resting. I'm tired. Look how tired I am. And it's interesting because like, I feel like when we talk about rest, everyone immediately goes to laying down, sleeping, chilling, doing nothing. But I think rest, and if we're going to equate it to rejuvenation instead of using the word rest, that can actually look like being active in a way that is correct for you. For me, you know, I stepped back into the theater and it was like I fucking reverse aged 10 years. I was like, oh my God, oh, just kidding. I'm supposed to be like fucking doing this, even though I come out of rehearsals just bone tired. But it was tired in a way that actually was like, oh yeah, this feels fine to me. I'm tired, but I'm going to go sleep now, you know? Whereas before it was like, I would lay down to go to sleep and I would never wake up rested. I would never wake up feeling like, oh, well, that was what I needed, you know? And that was really a big thing for me to learn because I hadn't considered that before I walked through it. And I think it's also something that is really interesting as an open sacral person. I can tell within 2 seconds flat if I'm plugged into a generator that is unhappy.
Mm.
I have no choice but to be like lit up by that and be like, here I am, energized. But it feels so, I don't even know what word to use, like granular, gravelly, different. And then when I hook into a generator that's satisfied, it's like, beep, beep, beep. You know, like we are along, you know, it feels so different. It's visceral. It's really, I think, if you're at the very beginning of your journey, deconditioning the sacral center, just sitting with your own, oh, I accentuated the T so much, sitting with your own level of energy in your own space before you go out, before you interact with anybody and being like, this is where I am. And noticing how your energy levels get pulled up and down as you're in other people's auras. That's a really good place to start. Just building that awareness of here is my baseline. I feel that I'm being pulled out of that and that's okay. There's nothing I can do about it, but I recognize where I started. It helps with not pushing yourself out of your own capacity.
Mm. I think that reframe of rest is very important. I've been in the same, I mean, we feed our mind this information of human design, and I love my mind. I have a very highly defined ajna. I'm in love with it. I love thinking. I love, going through all the emotions and figuring it out. And again, the mind is not the enemy here. But when we feed the mind all of these little Instagram clips of, well, you're a manifestor, so you're going to be in a rest cycle. And, you know, watching people talk about rest as, like you said, being horizontal, laying in bed, not doing anything. But we are, at the end of the day, energy types. And there is something about using energy, even though no, it's not consistent. But if we're going to be laying down, like you said, 12 to 15 hours a day for long periods of time, that's not going to be good for our souls, for our body. And I fell into that hole of being like, oh, well, I'm a manifestor. I have rest cycles or whatever people want to call it. You know, ebb and flow of energy is more of where I like to put my words into it. But noticing how if I instead would use my time to go for a walk or whatever, just using that energy on something that's not productive per se, not creating per se, but still using energy on something, that's when I sleep best at night. Like you said, waking up and feeling like you actually got rested instead of sleeping for 8 hours, waking up and being like, oh, I could sleep again for 12 hours, you know?
It's so funny because it was like 3 or 4 years ago, somewhere on Twitter, when I used to have a Twitter account, I said, you know what, I think even if you're non-sacral, there is a thing as too much rest. I had a bunch of comments that were like, no, I don't, that's not a thing. And now here we are. And I'm like, it's a thing. Here's my case study, you know. But yeah, it's just like the thing where I'd like have these ideas of things that I felt like wanted to be born. And I'd start to whisper them into the universe. And then I'd be like, I can't, the energy's gone from me. And then I'd watch other manifestors pick it up and do it. You know, not like in a, ooh, they stole it from me way, but kind of like in a way of like, well, the universe said, do you want this? And essentially I said no, because I didn't do it. And then it said, okay, well, we'll have it be born over here. We'll have it be born over there. And having that juxtaposition of believing that I needed to be resting at that time, you know, I was really subscribed to that idea. And then the like pain of watching your babies being born not from you, essentially, you know, and I had to really grapple with that back and forth. And I'll have moments where I get really bitter that my solar plexus is the only motor that I have. And I'm like, fuck this. But I look at, you know, good manifestor friends of mine, and I see them releasing all this shit. And I'm like, fuck you. Not them, but like, you know, the energy of it all, just being like, God, what the hell? You know, like, why can't I be doing that much stuff? You know, and, you know, pings around all my undefined centers to beat my ass. And at the end of the day, the baseline level of it was that I was lying to myself and not recognizing that I was doing that, bypassing my own urges, my own desires to stay in a free state. And I couldn't really get out of it until I moved away from the suburb. It was like the second I lived in the city, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, here we are. You know, and I sit on my porch and I'm right on a busy street. You know, there's cars going by all day long and everybody's different music is going by me. And I'm like, oh, this person's listening to reggae. Oh, she's got opera. Very interesting. Got an Italian deli over there. Got a Vietnamese place across the street. I'm getting all these different things. I'm like, oh, it's true. It's actually true. You do need to be in your correct environment. You know? Wow.
How long have you lived where you're living now?
Literally a month and 10 days.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I think environment is so interesting because, you know, I'm a shores environment person and my husband is narrow valleys. And we moved to Greece and it was very much, you know, this pulse of urge driven that we were going to go to Greece. And I feel like when I got there, you know, I'm living literally on a shore, but I'm living on a shore that has a kitchen. So it's like this it's not a literal boardwalk out into the, sea, but it's like right across the sea. It's just busy, 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 all these things going on, la 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 la. And I could not for the life of me be active in that environment. I stopped doing things. I was lazy as fuck. I was like, it was so hard to get anything started. And my mind is like, but you're on a shore. And it wasn't until I had moved away from that where I was like, oh, but I was living in a kitchen shore, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It was not the place for me. And where I live now, it's like, it's not on a literal shore, but I can see far. I can see the shore line out there, and I can, you know, gaze over all of these houses onto the horizon and get that perspective shift. And I'm like alive, active as fuck. And it's so weird how true it is. Like, I didn't want to believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
Another kind of anecdote, I'm dry kitchens. And, it was post Saturn return. I went to Portland with Kelsey, and I felt fucking terrible. I love Portland. I love Seattle. So this is a little depressing for me, but I went there and we went to the seaside and I could barely walk. I couldn't fucking breathe. And I was like, what? Now you gotta be fucking kidding me. And I'm like, is this really how much this affects me now? Jesus Christ. So now I'm like, oh, let me visit New Mexico. Let me go somewhere really dry and see what that's like. That's next on my list to do. But like truly going to somewhere more humid. I mean, Minnesota's not dry, but it's also not like super humid. But going over to Portland and Seattle, just like how much I did not feel well was shocking to me.
Mm. Yeah, I think I remember following that on Instagram, that you were hanging out with her and someone else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I felt like I was in tears.
Yeah.
Not feeling good.
Yeah, it's weird. I think, and we can get, like I said, with my move to Greece, it was like, well, I'm going to be on a shore. It was like very mindy, but it was, a shore is not a shore in the same way that a kitchen is not a kitchen, I'm assuming.
It can be. It can be. It depends. That is where I spend the most time in my house, in any house that I'm in. I spend all my time in the kitchen. But, it doesn't have to be. It's not my main,
Mhm.
Art studios tend to be my main, really.
Yeah, let's shift this into rekindling your passions. Because, for the years that I've been following you, um, I've just loved that theatrical part of you, where it's like you'll change your accent, or you'll talk a little bit Italian, or you'll, have these different roles. And I think what I've seen now is you're in this play, and there's just been this intense rekindling of passion. And I don't know if that's true. I mean, you're a fifth line here. I am projecting on you, but tell me about what that's been like going back to the theater.
Yeah. I'll start by saying that I'm like holding the word passion very loosely at this time in my life because I have some long-term Neptune transits that I've been kind of getting my ass beat by. That's touching my midheaven and my moon and my Mars. And basically my work life, my public life, my emotional life have all been very obscured to me, which I find deeply aggravating. And it's like, this is supposed to be a spiritual time for you. Just like let things happen. I get these notifications from the pattern, and it's like, you could work 10 hours or 100 hours and yield the same results. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Because it's like, I know. I've noticed. Thanks for sharing that. And, toward the beginning, it is teaching me a lot, I will say, because toward the beginning of the transit, I was very much like, what do I want to do? What do I care about? Who am I? Blah, blah. And the fun G stuff as well. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm just going to hold that loosely. Today, I care about this. Tomorrow, like each day, today I care about this. Today I care about this. and it's never the same. And I'm letting that be what it is. Um, in terms of the theater, you know, I grappled with whether I was even going to do the audition because I was like, oh, I don't know. Can I even do this anymore? People who have known me for 20 years, when I say I totally stopped doing music, I wasn't even singing at my house. It's like almost, they can't believe that. They can't believe that's true. They think I'm exaggerating. But no, I'm not. I stopped in totality. And, I did the audition. I brought Freddie with me because he's like kind of interested, but he's anxious about environments that he's unfamiliar with. He's splenic. So I took him with me and he watched my audition. And I think that might be the first time he's ever heard me like sing for real, like really go all out. Because he's sitting, in the audition room and he just like his jaw drops and he's like looking at me like, holy shit, that's my mother. That was cute and sweet. And then, I got the call and they were like, do you want to be in the ensemble? I was like, yep, put me in, coach. I walked into the rehearsal environment and was like, oh my God. Like, why did I start doing this again? I'm so happy. I feel so great. And it's been interesting to ride the emotional wave about that. Even in each rehearsal, I go through an arc of like, oh my God, this is wonderful. Like, oh, everything is terrible. I'm so awkward. Nobody likes me. Dear God, why am I like this? And yesterday I was in the kitchen making myself like a fucking little protein snack. It's a 3-layer situation with oats and honey. And then there's chocolate. And then on top, it's peanut butter and chocolate chips. They're very good. I recommend them. Anyway, so I'm making that and I'm standing in the kitchen and I'm just like crying. And I asked Corey to come give me a hug because I was sad. Because there are so many grief points that touch my performance life. And it's good because I'm now willing to look at them and feel them and grapple with the parts of me that feel like it's stupid to have those feelings. Like one of the things is like, I am angry that I am a plus size woman in the theater world. I'm angry about that because I likely will not get cast in the roles that I want because I look the way I look. And then I'm further angry that I feel that way about it, that I feel like I need to change this. This isn't good enough because I feel like I have to play the game. And why am I playing the game? It's like this whole overlapping circle. And it touches other things. Like I had a mentor and a dear friend to me who I loved very, very much to the point of where I named her godmother of my daughter, of Magnolia. And I did that as like a gesture of, I love you, be her godmother. Not like, I expect you to be da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da. I don't care. I don't care if you never do anything with that. Like, I love you, you're her godmother sort of thing. Say to me that she felt like I was only hanging around her because I wanted something from her. And then at another point said, well, maybe you're not a musician after all. Because it was like, in my moment of pullback from that whole world. And I was wounded so deeply by that. I still am. So it's like I get back into this world. Immediately I step back in and I watch my network go, opens up again. And I have all these new theater connections and old theater connections being like, oh, hey, welcome back, whatever. And then right alongside with it, right along with my joy of like, here I am. I am so good at this. Look, I sound so good. I look so good. This is going well. I feel so good. Right alongside of that is like, I'm never going to get what I want in this world because of this. And there's so much work to go from here to there. Do I even want to go from here to there? Why do I have to? And, oh, do you remember how this person that you loved who should have known you so well said this about you? And, somebody could do that again. Somebody could hurt you like that, So it's like this thing that's really balancing within me where I'm like, okay, all right, I'm going to feel that and I'm going to cry about it. And I'm going to see where I stand. Do I still want to do it today? Do I still want to do it today? And so far, the answer's been yes. Overwhelmingly, I feel that it is very good for me. And I feel something waking up in me that I thought was never going to wake up again. I didn't think I was ever going to do another show. I was so angry and I was so bitter. I didn't think I was ever going to do it again. And now here I am. You know?
Beautiful. I feel like when you were talking, I'm looking at your design and I'm like, it sounds like there's like a fight between that 1222 and that 4764, especially that 47. We both have that 47 and yours is 47.3. And if I remember correctly, that line is self-oppression.
Yeah, it sure is. Oh, it is. And I pulled it up because I wanted to read, go back, the exact description of it because it's funny to me. Detriment. A self-oppression so highly energized that it may prove irreversible and destructive. Extreme difficulty in realizing one's self-worth. Oh my God, don't I know it? The part that's the funniest to me is so highly energized. Because it is. It's like fucking powered, man. Like, especially having the whole channel. It's like, always I'm trying to be like, why did that person say that? What does that mean? Were they right? Always looking for that realization. And it feels so good when I land on one, and I'm like, here it is. Here's the thing I've realized about this. And then it goes right back into it. Because a part of me goes, no, that's not quite it. There's more to that. There's more to that. There's actually something more that's wrong with you that you need to look at and figure out. Can you figure it out? And that's just, that's been a very interesting thing to grapple with my whole life. And the first time that I read the description of that gate in that line, I was like, oh my fucking God. Yeah, there it is. There it is. And I think I hadn't thought about it until I read it. It was like something that was just a program running in the background. And then I read it and I went, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to live with.
It is. I don't have that full channel, but I have the 47.6 in my personality earth. And so it's part of my incarnation cross, which of course is part of it's your personal sun. And 47.6 is always in detriment. There is no polarity. It's just everything is fucking futile. It's just not worth it. It's just done and over with. And it's been such an interesting process where I feel like I get to choose between, do I want to lean into the fact that it's futile, so therefore I'm not going to do it? Or am I going to lean into everything is futile, so let's just do it? But that anxiety that you're talking about with the whole, why did they say that? Or what was the reason for that happening? That past, going to the past, kind of picturing, or for me, it's just like small pictures that will show up and it would just be like, oh, wait, oh no, because that person said this, I should not be doing this. It's a struggle.
Yeah. That phrase, that what was the reason? There has to be a reason. Like, that is kind of the hinge for me. And it's like, I know so well that there's so many things that happen that there is no fucking reason for. It's just experiential. That's like being human. But in those moments where I get really taken by it, I totally forget that that's a fact. I totally forget that that exists. And I have to let myself go through it until a part of me reaches out and grabs that again and goes, no, wait, chill the fuck out. There might not even be a reason. Just let it flow through, man. Let it flow through. And those are the moments where I come back up again and I go, okay, shake it off, man. You're thinking about that too much. But it does take me, and I've been deconditioning a long time and it doesn't take me any less. It takes me.
I think that's really important also, that there's like this narrative of get rid of the not self, or people that are talking about how they are no longer not self. And that just makes me laugh so fucking hard.
Let me know when that realization lands for you, it's make peace with the not self. Love the not self. It's there. It's you. It's part of you. It's not this thing that you ever get to take off and lay down. It's yours, you know? And it is also good and it is also purposeful. It presents its challenges, but challenge is not inherently a negative. Without any challenge, life would be like fucking boring as hell and it would not feel purposeful. There would be no purpose without challenge. Damn it.
Amen. Hallelujah. The beauty of this whole system is truly acceptance and accepting anger, accepting peace, accepting energetic moments, accepting restful moments, you know, that whole acceptance. And I'd be really interested to hear, what has your journey been like when it comes to anger?
I knew you were going to ask that somehow. Yeah, the last podcast interview I did, I remember saying that I still fear my anger expression. And today I don't feel that way, but that day I did. And in reflection upon saying that, I think I have, through human design, gained an understanding of how powerful my anger can be as a manifester. And, you know, kind of by my hand, the amount of destruction I can deal if I want to, if I allow that to happen, you know. When you think about historical examples of manifestors and what their anger has done in the world. So I think the part of me that holds fear is the part that senses the wilderness in that and the untamable quality that is there. Dancing with the part of me that invites all emotional expression, that sees nothing as a negative, that is like the path to health in the body is to allow the expression. You know, those two things dancing and kind of figuring out, how can I express my anger in a way that does not ruin someone's life?
Yep.
It's a process and kind of a releasing that's happening bit by bit, much like everything else. You know, it's just like me easing into, okay, is it safe for me to express this much of it? Okay, no one's died, everything's fine, moving on, you know. I found boxing to be very helpful.
Yes.
You know? Having a sparring partner who is like, no, you're ready for me to hit you, and actually that's what you've signed up for. All right, great. You know, I don't know if any other manifestors relate to this, but I had a significant arc of abuse as a child. I have not been able to yell or scream without pain since I was a child. And that is actually one of my primary focuses. I'm about to embark on voice lessons for the first time in many years, and I've got like a laundry list of things I want to assess. And one of them is projecting my speaking voice and figuring out how to yell without pain. Because even when I intentionally, I'm like, okay, I'm going to yell this, a part of me physically, not mentally, physically is holding that expression back and going, no, you do not yell. You cannot yell. And that's a piece of conditioning I'm feeling really ready to release, because it's time. It's time for me to be able to raise my voice and to be heard when I want to be heard.
Oh gosh, I have goosebumps from that because I'm right there with you. You know, expressing anger and raising my voice. I think, you know, I was born in the States and then I moved to Norway. And by all means, you know, I absolutely love and adore my family. And every time I bring up my family, I always kind of frame it in the whole, they did the best they could with what they had. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I was not allowed to express my emotions. And here we are, emotional manifestors, and you have a very defined throat on top of it. Mm-hmm. and not being able to release in that manner. I hear you so well when it comes to that physical pain. When, I'll scream into pillows now when I'm really angry, or with if something's just like fucking in my way. I'll just find a pillow and I'll just scream. And it's just that physical pain in the throat area is so intense, because there is this inner child part of me that's just like, what the fuck are you doing? You're going to get in trouble, and just
Right.
holding that back because you're going to get in trouble. And it's like, if you look at my gene keys, I have guilt as my core wound as well. So it's just like this whole guilt part of like, I can't do this. Someone's going to yell at me for yelling.
Yeah. And mine's abandonment is very much that. People will leave me, people will not love me. Yelling is not something we do. It's not appropriate. And it is. I think, that pain, it's coming from, there's this energy that's motorized by the solar plexus, pushing it, chokes. And it's like the most applicable way for me to get that out is actually to cry. And then there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not the energy that wanted to come out. So it's like a half expression in many ways. What I actually wanted to come out was like this big, like, I'm excited to do that. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to follow that journey as well. If you do share with us on Instagram. But on the other side, I'm also curious, like, what does peace feel like to you?
That's a good question. I feel like it has a lot of different expressions. I've been having a lot of moments since I moved where I like actually take pause and I go, oh, this is peace. I feel peaceful right now. One of them recently was when I was planting stuff in our little front garden, pulling the weeds out and putting new things in there. And I'm like, oh, I just feel so fucking serene right now. I am fully in this moment. That's a big piece of it, being just in that moment alone and not being pulled in either direction, past or future. I'm just here. I'm planting these plants. I'm just here. I'm at my rehearsal and I'm with these people and I just feel like I'm fully here. I'm not wishing to be elsewhere. I'm not thinking of what I could be doing better. I'm just here. And that's peace to me.
Mm. Yeah, I've loved having a lot of the different conversations I've had with people. I've asked these questions, not everybody, but some. And I think it's so important, this whole thing is the science of differentiation, and we can have these understandings of what is anger and what is peace, but it's going to look different for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a beautiful way of talking about it as being in the moment, being present, being fully here. I've never really thought of it that way before. But when you say that, I can just, see all these moments of peace where it's just like, yeah, there's been this mindful presence of here and now. I also want to touch on, and I know we're talking a lot of basic things here, but I think it's important for anybody. I mean, even if they're newer to human design or not, but the repelling aura, or the opposite, which a lot of people fucking forget, the magnetic aura. It's like everything in human design is a duality. And I get that we have this, beautiful book of differentiation that talks about how manifestors are repelling. And I think we kind of sometimes forget that we're also magnetic. But have you had some specific experiences that you remember where you've repelled or attracted?
Oh, hell yeah. I don't remember the lecture, but I was listening to Rock Talk recently about like, the closed and repelling. The closed, we cannot control. It is what it is. But the repelling is something that's in our control. Mm-hmm. And when I was first learning human design, nobody was saying that. It was kind of like the two are together. You can't close. You're always repelling, blah, 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 blah. And when I heard him say that, I was like, oh, see, now that is what I felt. That is what I thought was going on. And that was validating for me. Because when I don't like someone, or if I want someone to get away from me, That's easy to do, you know? And I don't gotta say a goddamn thing. It's just like fully an internal, like, "Ooh, get out of my way. Ooh, get away from me." And they do, you know? The vibe comes through. And also, I'm a fifth line, so I can be very seductive when I want to be. And, that's happening whether I am intending it to happen or not. But when I am in an environment where I want to be seen as like fun, fun cat comes out to play, and my 1222 is in the mood for it. Oh my God. It's like everybody loves me. Everybody wants to hang out with me. All of a sudden I'm getting all these text messages from people. It's like, I think at this time when I was part of an organization called She Rock, which is like, you teach kiddos, girls, trans, and non-binary kiddos how to be in a band from start to finish, even if they don't know how to play their instrument, you teach them basics, teach them, how to be in a band, how to write songs, and then they get to do a true show at a venue. It's very cool. They're all over the United States, and I think elsewhere. Check it out if you want. But anyway, I was part of that, and it was the night of our showcase. And there was a gal that I was kind of crushing on a little bit. And I wanted to be cute and fun and whatever. And I rolled in there, and I swear to God, you might have thought that I had taken cocaine, the amount of energy that I rolled in there with. And I was just like laughing along. I'm joking with the kids. I'm joking with the staff. Blah, blah, blah. And I just felt everybody just go right to me and be like, "Oh, wow, you're so cool. You're so fun." It is definitely a conscious thing that we can play with. And I like it.
I remember one of because I've gone live with Dave, Neutrino Radio Dave, a couple of times on Instagram. Because
I love Dave.
I love Dave too.
He's so fucking funny, dude.
He is.
I love him.
Absolutely love Dave. And he's my birthday buddy. So we kind of do these birthday lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of the first ones was probably 3 years ago. And that kind of came out of my mouth. And I remember after the live, I felt so stupid because I was still in that preconceived notion of what repelling meant. And like, oh, but I'm always repelling. But I told him that it feels like, if I have this victim mentality, or if I have this like internal gloom, not even looking at the 1222 being in the mood or not, just like this mental perception of who I am, I will repel in a way that I don't want.
Yes.
And since that live, I had to really go into myself and be like, well, if that came out, there has to obviously be some truth to it, Jessica. I'm a 4323 over here. And so it's like that insight came out, and I don't know where that insight came from, but it came from somewhere. So let's look at this. And really just understanding that there was so much truth to that what's going on in this internal world is so going to impact what is going on the outside. Mm-hmm. And it's not linked, because I know a lot of people who are listening to this who are deep into human design will be like, well, you're a 1222. You might just not be in the mood. And it's like, no, that's not what it was. That's not what it was. So I love that. I'm so glad that you brought that to the forefront.
Yeah, I agree with that. There are times when I've like been in the mood to be social, but the way I was choosing to be social was really linked to my beliefs on that particular day about myself. And it's interesting to watch, like, if I'm feeling really low on the self-worth spectrum, what I'm drawing to me is people mirroring that. Things mirroring that, and things allowing me to just really hinge into that feeling and that belief. And on the one hand, I'm like, well, there's nothing really wrong with that. That's an experience that I'm having, and it's obviously an emotion I'm wanting to have and that I'm purging and going through and looking at. But, on the other hand, just to notice when I am in a different space and I'm feeling like I want to build myself up, the way my world shifts and the people who are attracting to me totally shift, It's interesting to watch, and it really doesn't have anything to do, in my opinion, with whether I'm in the mood to be social or not, because I can be in the mood to be social and want to like stitch and bitch about how hard life is and how oppressed I am specifically, And I can be in the mood to be social about how amazing everything is. And oh my God, optimism, peace, joy. I can want to be social in a variety of ways.
Yes, 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 yes.
So affirming your realization there.
Thank you. I need that. Oh my gosh. I think it's just interesting to notice the similarities and differences between us manifestors. And not everybody's going to have the same experience that you and I have shared here, of course, but I think it's worth looking into for anybody who's listening who's a manifestor, of just like what is going on mentally versus what's going on outside of you. Yeah. I don't know if I have any more questions, Kat.
That's so funny. In my head, right after you said that, I was like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yep. I also feel complete.
It's like,
Insane.
I love that. Absolutely. Are there any final words you would like to end this on?
I think what's coming up for me is I just want to say, keep going. I have this, and I wrote this in my Substack today. I am sensing in my online world that people are having the same sort of pop up for air out of what's been really difficult, long-term challenging situations. And I just kind of want to affirm that and say, keep going. It is going to keep turning. I feel that it is going to keep turning, and I know it's been really hard.
I'm taking that to heart. So, how can people find you? And are there specific ways that people can work with you? Do you have services that you offer?
Yeah, I can be found at cat.unfurled or at heartsong.hd on Instagram. Right now, my only service that's open is intuitive playlists that come with a little tarot reading. Very soon, my human design consultations will open up again. So you can just kind of watch my spaces for that. Otherwise, Instagram's the place. I am often vibing there. So
Awesome. I will put all the ways to get in contact with you in the show notes. Thank you so much, Kat. I loved having you and this conversation on the podcast.
yeah, thanks. It was awesome hanging out with you.